Hello, this is the demonstration for the final project in computer graphics. And so before we go into details, we set up our necessary libraries that we will use here. Here we load in the meshes of all the objects, create a couple of structures for the objects and the lights that we will use later, some shaders, the buffer parameters that will be used for every object, and some extra parameters for the screen, additional parameters for the rotation translation. And we have the camera parameters here so that we can move around the scene, and some extra parameters for later functions. And so here we load in the 3D object by using these functions that were given from the tutorial, and I modified the object buffer mesh so that it will take in the parameters for each buffer for separate objects and to indicate which textures to load and which shader to use. And here in the display, this is where we render the scene, create a matrix for the model view and projection, and this is where we set up the camera here. And here this is how we load in each model, and so we just go all the way down for each model until we go down. And so this is where we update the scene. This is where the animation happens. For the zombie that will be walking, that I'll show later. And this is where we use the generate object buffer mesh to load in each of the objects and apply a specific texture that we want for a particular object. And here, this is where we use some controls to just move around the object for testing, but mainly here, this is where I put the controls for some animation testing, but also for moving around the camera here. And if we go here, this is where we can move around the camera at any angle we want by clicking and dragging across the screen by the click of the mouse. And this is another function to indicate that the mouse is being clicked. And here we have also the main setup here. And I also inputted a library to basically play some ambient noise in the background when the scene is being played, which I will show later. And lighting is implemented by Lighting is implemented by creating a light object source. So we create the color of the light, we apply them into our the vertex shader, and we create the material like reflection property and configure the shininess that we want on it, which is also passed on into the vertex shader. So here we have the vertex shader, which I decided here to pass on the position of the light and where to do all essentially the reflections and all the calculations for the Phong illumination. And this is where it calculates the ambient, diffuse, and the specular. And it passes on the result to the fragment shader, and it adds it together with the light intensity, so like the shininess of the light, and then passes on as like the final color for the material. So we'll run the program, see what it looks like. So here we can see we have a scene here, and we can hear the background noise, ambient fire that I decided to add in. So here we have walking zombies, and before the zombies, all the textures are passed on through using STB image, the header file, and basically I place the textures in certain objects. Some of these objects are imported from the library online, and some of these I made them myself, like the ground is a flat plane, and then I passed on the cobblestone texture, for example. And so here we have the fire meteorites around the Dublin area. We have the spire here, and here we have the walking zombies with the hierarchical animation. As the body is moving forward, the legs bend at a certain angle. And once they reach a certain distance, then they turn around and start moving to the other direction. And we have a bus here as well with the meteorite in it. And so yeah, as you can see, the camera, we can move it by dragging the mouse, and we also have the Phong illumination happening. So like, if we view the object at a certain angle, we can see the light, where the light is coming from, and where the effect happens. And yeah, additional feature I also added is a skybox. I did it by placing the plane on each of the sides essentially, so that like top, bottom, left, right, and forward and backwards, so that it's covering around the area, so it will give a illusion of like a night sky. And yeah, that's about it. That is my project. Thank you.